Hi, Scorpio. So I pulled the Judgment card for you. Corpse Finder. Interesting mushroom name. And then on the bottom of the deck, we have the Three of Pentacles. Green Elf Cup. Beautiful. Okay, and we're doing 2 decks today. So I also have this deck, the, oh gosh, what's it called? The Sacred Web. And you got the Star card. And also on the bottom of this deck, you have the Scout of Fire, which is the Knight of Wands. Scout of Fire. Okay. And then your messages, the name Kelly, Cabin in the Woods, Raboot, which is a Pokemon, and I'll explain that in just a minute, Fathership, Snow, Ronnie Radke, Sistership, Grow a ... Montana, and Doctor Strange. Hold on, guys. My lips are feeling a little chapped. Okay. All right. So, where do I want to start? This one is like, what? A name for a mushroom. Corpse Finder. Okay, so I actually bookmarked these pages for these two just so that I could read them for you guys. Okay. Okay. Reported to have brought a crime to light when a gathering of these mushrooms fruited over buried human remains. The corpse finder gets its rather gruesome name because the release of nitrogen from a decaying mammal is what causes it to appear. The Judgment card need not refer to a sordid court case, however. It can call to mind judgments made by or about you or upcoming choices. Judgments made by or about you or upcoming choices. Interesting, because in the I haven't posted it yet, but in the collective message, it was about flies kind of showing where there's like rotting flesh. It's like that Pride and Prejudice scene where there's a zombie masquerading as a human, and the flies were able to tell what was dead and what was actually alive. Just reminded me of that. Corpse Finder. Interesting. Okay, then we have the Three of Pentacles. That there. Green Elf Cup. The color from the Green Elf Cups strains gray-brown. The color from Green Elf Cups strains gray-brown decaying wood into a beautiful shade of turquoise. The different elements, as if assembled by the hand of a skilled craftsperson, uniting them, harmonize like a work of art. feel like the punctuation is not, anyways, a perfect match for the Three of Pentacles, which emphasizes teamwork. Sorry if I kind of butchered that, guys. As if assembled by the hand of a skilled craftsperson, uniting them. Harmonize like a work of art. Okay, maybe it's me, but it just feels like kind of like weirdly, yeah. Okay. Emphasizes teamwork. Okay. All right. So let's get into... So judgment about a team, teamwork. A zombie energy. Trying to like bridge these two energies together. The story I just told you about the zombie and the mushrooms finding a corpse, like the flies finding the rotting flesh. Teamwork. It sounds like you or a group of people are trying to find something or create something to find something. Create almost like this kind of quality to determine what is healthy and what needs to go. What is like rotting, decayed. Okay. And this star card, I love this star card. So it's a frog leaping up out of the water to reach like a star-like energy. And it just makes me think of like the impossible is not impossible if you believe that you can do it. If you believe, if you keep putting one step in front of the other, you're going to achieve something relatively like similar to what you're, trying to reach. Like this frog does not realize that it's not supposed to be like reaching for this energy. It's leaping. It's like a leap of faith. It just reminds me of a portal. We have Doctor Strange here, this portal. And his hands kind of remind me of what Doctor Strange does in order to create the portal. Creating a portal. It's not impossible. I'm getting like a weird choppy energy. Kind of like when I was trying to read the Three of Pentacles card. Choppy energy. Things not harmonizing like they're supposed to. It feels disjointed. Disjointed. Okay. Okay, and then the name Kelly could just be significant for you in some way. Even maybe like on a TV show or something to look out for in the next few days. The name Kelly, it might have like a message for you. Okay. And then cabin in the woods. Kind of feels like ominous with this corpse finder thing. Cabin in the woods. Just something like private. Secretive. Secluded. Yeah. And then we have reboot, this Pokemon energy, which a lot of like, I have a lot of like my spiritual work and my poetry and stuff connected to certain Pokemon. And just like when I draw it, it just like kind of symbolically represents certain things to me. So with reboot, it's connected to a poem of mine. I might read it soon. We'll see. But symbolically, like I'm just going to kind of like briefly share what it means. So, people who portray themselves to be something they are not in order to dictate or show superiority. This one is about people acting holier than thou in order to wield their beliefs as righteous, in order to make others feel inferior or wrong. It's about seeing through these people and using their false light to strengthen yourself. And I have Joan of Arc. So that was the photo that I put with this poem, was Joan of Arc, which is interesting because Joan of Arc, that message came through in a Libra reading recently. Okay. This feels like a big message. I'm going to try to condense this as much as possible. So Joan of Arc was burned for her beliefs. She believed that she had a divine connection to God, that she didn't have to go through anyone to have a connection with God. The ruling religious elite at that time believed that you had to go through them in order to have a connection to God. They didn't believe that a peasant girl could have a connection to God. And she believed differently. She knew differently, and she even led an army. I think she was 14 or 15 years old. At that age, that just knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and knowing the truth. And she, so she had to, and she burned a lot. She was burned alive for it by the religious authority at that time. Because and it was all about control. It was all about illusion and control, needing to, just control. So that's also interesting here with this rotting energy pointing the way to what is false, what is decaying. This, where did I write that? Okay. About seeing through people. About seeing through people. It's like the flies finding the zombies. What is false? What is false light? So I knew someone who was kind of part of the spiritual community who seemed very much like they had a lot of like light coming out of them, but as soon as you came closer, they were cold. And not in like, I'm not talking about like mentally, but like it was almost like a projection of light, a projection of warmth, but it was like artificial, because as soon as you got closer to them, it was like everything kind of fell apart. It was artificial light, like an artificial sun. And I'm not gonna like pass judgment on this person. I believe that they believed. See, I don't want to hold that position of trying to like seeming like I'm holier than thou because I'm passing judgment on their energies. I'm trying to like maneuver around this in an appropriate way. It's when people hold these positions of truth and believe that they have some kind of superiority over you. Like they deserve to lead or rule. But as soon as you get closer to these people, it's like whatever you thought was that warmth, whatever drew you in like a moth, all of a sudden like dissipates. It's cold. Like you're drawn in by the light and you're assuming to get the warmth, and the warmth isn't there. It's cold. It's a projection. It's an illusion. That's at least what I'm like, this is what this feels like to me. A corpse finder. Like flies finding what's cold, what doesn't have like hot blood pumping through it. Like you know, that zombie energy. I just thought of that parasitic bug that invades bodies and like maneuvers like literally it's a parasite. It gets into the body and it acts like, it's called a zombie parasite, I believe. And it creates an illusion of that animal being alive, but it's not. The host was taken over by a parasite. That is disgusting. I don't know why that's like coming through here. Okay. All right, so we got past that. Okay, fathership. It's so interesting that we have fathership and sistership right here. Fathership and sistership. All right, let's focus on fathership first. So that's, to me, fathership doesn't even necessarily have to be like an actual father or dad. It's someone who holds like that, a healthy masculine energy, but almost like in a fatherly way. And I was just talking about this in Libra's reading. Almost like when you're holding like a position of like a guardian or in some way, like you want your child to be able to fully discover what's in front of them, fully like investigate, like let's say like outside, like fully investigate their surroundings. But you also kind of have to have that healthy boundary of like, okay, they've picked up a mushroom. What is that mushroom? Is that going to harm them, or is it going to, you know, like, what is it? So it's almost like, it's like allowing that freedom, but also allowing that like ability to be like, okay, this isn't good, but also able to explain why it isn't good. That was the other thing. Like, why are you telling me no? Like, that was the thing when I was younger. That was what pissed me off more than anything, is when my parents would just say no. It's like, why? Why no? Like, I need to understand why. Why can't I have that? Why can't I see that? Why can't I do that? Why? Like a mushroom. What is the mushroom? Why is it no? Like, that was just what came through for Libra's reading. So it's almost like, yeah, allowing the freedom that they need and that they deserve, but also having that like boundary and respect to be able to tell them, like, if they pick up a mushroom and it's bad or whatever it is, being able to explain why. Why no? Why? That's just what that reminds me of. Okay, so then snow. And immediately when I pulled this out, I thought of Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Jon Snow. Don't know why, but that's just kind of like what it reminded me of. Oh, he was a considered a bastard, right? Like he wasn't technically royal, even though he had like royal blood in him. He was like, yeah, he was a bastard. Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that was like, you know, in the beginning. Really, he had something much even bigger. He was being hidden from people that were trying to wipe out a bloodline, I believe. Oh. Then Ronnie Radke. And this is falling in reverse, right? Falling in reverse. I was gonna say escape the fate, but that's his first man before he went to jail. So everyone has like a mixed opinion of Ronnie Radke. I like him. I respect people who have their own mind, who can think for themselves, even if like you can even say the majority of people disagree with you or don't like what you have to say. You still have your own mind. You can still think for yourself, speak for yourself. It's not like this like cult like holier than thou. We have a group think and set in place. You have to abide by it, or you're shunned, or we're going to harm you or burn you in some way. So Ronnie Radke, like he's like his own person. Like he does not give a crap what anyone thinks of him. And I just like, I think that's like, I think it's healthy. I think, you know, and he's not a perfect person. He doesn't care to be a perfect person. And he's very like aware he's not a perfect person. And yeah, he's very aware that he's not holier than thou, you know? So, yeah. So then we have sistership. So this could just simply, like, it's the most common, like, you know, in, you know, the sisterhood stuff. Honestly, like, sistership is, like, a bit triggering for me. Because most situations where I've, like, been in this, like, sistership energy, it's actually been quite toxic. And kind of gets into this kind of, like, holier than thou energy. And I've just never, like, I was drawn to it for a while in my life. And actually, like, so I did rewilding for women, and that to me, you can have your own opinion about like this. I think in some ways, like sistership can be toxic, but in other ways it can be healthy. Just like with anything, but I think it like almost creates like this, almost like a cult like vibe that I don't like, where there's almost like a groupthink set in place. And when things get like groupthinky, I tend to go the other way. Like, I don't like people telling me what to think. I don't like things set in place and be like unevolving. But with like rewilding for women, I loved the actual parts where you got to work with the archetypes. Like that was my favorite thing. I grew a lot. I learned a lot about myself, like working with archetypes, embodiment. That was amazing and healthy and very much part of like my foundation and my structure. But I just like when things start to get like that weird cult like a group think, like this is how it is, and you can't think differently or you're going to get your head bitten off. That's the moment where I'm just like, no, like I'm going this way. I've had to walk away from people because of this. So it's a little triggering, you know, but it's life. So, okay, grow a ... Then we have Montana next to it. Montana. So obviously Montana is a state. I don't like how growing a state. Growing a state. A state of mind. Thinking about the mushrooms growing. Growing a collective of independent thinkers. They're just like that, you know, Three of Pentacles. It's different people from different walks of life coming together, having different assets, different values, different resources, and creating something new. Traditionally, that's what the Three of Pentacles means. Growing a state of mind, a state of thought, a state. Growing a network. I was just thinking like this, growing a network that can detect this kind of like shitty energy, like mycelium. Like they have very intricate root systems, kind of like trees, but very, very intricate. They can pass information underground. Growing a new state of mind. Able to value different mindsets, not needing people to believe the same thing that you do. Okay. Then we have Doctor Strange. Obviously, this is a Marvel movie. He creates portals. That's why this reminds me of that. Like fire bending, fire magic. Creating portals. Fire can represent spirituality. It's just spirit, your spirit for things. Inspiration, inspired. New inspired thoughts, new inspired realms of energy. Sorry guys, my nose is running. Just like portals, like stepping through something. That was in, yeah, the collective message. Something about stepping through a portal. Stepping through a threshold. I wanted to say stepping through a trespass. Which reminds me of Poldark. The PBS show. It's one of my favorite shows. Poldark. So okay. There was a family land and that allowed people, the peasants, to walk through it without being harassed. It was just part of like the Cornwall. Like you could just simply go through the woods, even though like a certain family owned the land. It was for everyone. But when this guy took over the house, he married the woman there. He kind of outlawed the land, like from like the peasants and anyone from walking through it, which was obviously there to help, so they didn't have to go all the way around. It was helpful to keep in good graces of just like the rest of the people that lived around you. And he didn't want people walking through his land simply because he owned it. It wasn't close to his house. It was just because he owned the land. And it was just because of who he was, the character of him. And so he outlawed people from going through it. Well, they continued to go through it. They just broke down his signs. And so then he put a guy there to watch it who shot people who was going through it. And so, but he forced these people to go all the way around. So he not only like was just like arrogant, holier than thou, he also disrupted the natural flow of the environment, of just allowing people to walk through that just part of the land like they've been doing ever since it's just been the way it was. Simply because he owned it. And he took over that family's land who lived there. Sorry guys, I feel like this is kind of like disjointed a little bit. Like it's just like feeling like that. But maybe we're bringing like 3 different parts together or just energies together, kind of like in this Three of Pentacles energy. So I'm not going to be too concerned about the disjointedness of it. I feel like you're going to, if you resonate with this reading, you're just going to understand what this is about for you. Yeah. So creating these like portals. Kind of like creating these like portals. Like the impossible isn't impossible when you have the right tools, when you have the right mindset, the right inspiration, the right knowledge, the right people, the healthy levels of thinking, when things aren't so confined and cult-like and groupthink. Such a toxic energy. But most political systems like pretty much survive like a parasite because of groupthink. I'm a moderate. Yeah, I've tried out both sides, like really gave both sides a go. And yeah, they're very much absorbed in their own groupthink. And I believe moderate, a healthy balance between the two is, hopefully I'm not being a holier than thou right now, but just because I've been in those situations where people have basically like said, well, if you don't think like us, then you're gonna be immediately shunned and have your head bitten off, on both sides. And I just don't like that energy. I don't like it. It's not healthy in my opinion. So maybe I'm being self-righteous in some way. Maybe you could say that's a holier than thou opinion, but I don't think so. But obviously it's me saying it. But I just like, no, baby. I know. I just think like groupthink is just so confining and restrictive. And it creates this like false light energy, like that false light, because people think that they have to be a certain way. They feel like they have to embody certain objectives, certain ways of being in order to be accepted by a community, a belief system, a political practice. Yeah. You can reach for that. You don't have to be a part of any of that unless like that's just like what you want. Like you're your own individual, your own mind. Just like thinking differently, thinking outside of the box, creating these new portals of like belief, of perception, challenging yourself on what you believe and why you believe it. Like, just like, why do I believe that thing? Have I been taught to think that way? Why do we chew these people's head off when they think a different way? Why do they think a different way? Like, you know, that kind of stuff. Okay. Have I gotten everything out of this? I feel like I have. Yeah, working together with people who think differently than you, who can like perceive things in a different way. Like just a bunch of different people. I think that's so healthy when you have just like people who believe in different things, who just like hold different awarenesses, who are just their own individuals, who don't need other people to tell them who they are or what to think. And like having groups of those kind of people, like coming together and creating things. Yeah, it's like a beautiful medallion right there. See, like they created something. You can kind of think of like these being like three separate people. They engineered something new. Engineered a new way of thinking, potentially, since we have grow a Montana state of mind. I don't know what else this Montana energy would be unless that's like important for you in some way. In the cabin in the woods. Yeah. All right, Scorpio, I'm going to go ahead and leave this here. I hope you found some valuable information that can help you in your life, and I hope to see you next time.